Hey everyone, Luke here. Hope you're doing well. Before we get started, don't forget to like and don't forget to subscribe down below, okay? If you'd like to email me about doing a program or any other questions you have, you can email me Luke, L-U-K-E, Pryor, P-R-Y-O-R, @protonmail.com, and that email is down below, okay? So in this video, I wanted to do a sort of sequel to the last video I made about the sodium to potassium ratio and why I think the sodium to potassium ratio is the most important data point on a hair test. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to talk about the second and third most important data points and why once you have these three data points, which is the sodium to potassium ratio and then the other two we're going to talk about, once you have all three, you pretty much have all you need. You don't have all you need, but you have most of what you need to actually set up a program for someone, okay? So the most important data point that we talked about before in the last video was the sodium to potassium ratio, okay? And we talked about why that's a charging versus a discharging state and why that's a good sort of signifies the way that the body is moving, okay? And how it actually, to a certain extent, controls the oxidation rate. It can tell you if you're moving more towards, burnout, or slow oxidation, or more towards fast oxidation, okay? So the second and third data points, so number two we're going to talk about is the oxidation rate, okay? So the oxidation rate can be thought of in a lot of ways. It's similar to the sodium to potassium ratio, okay? So if you're in fast oxidation, that is correlated with higher thyroid hormone levels, higher adrenal hormone levels. So in men, that'd be higher testosterone levels. So more things like, sweating easily, and things that are more associated with fast oxidation. Okay. Higher metabolism. Fast oxidizers do generally have more energy. It can be an erratic energy, right? And those people can also be exhausted underneath. It might be a more temporary pattern, but fast oxidizers do tend to have more energy, right? To a certain point, fast oxidizers do also tend to be healthier just because their bodies were able to kind of mount that stress response in the first place, okay? So fast oxidation, it does signify that the body is healthier in general, okay? But it doesn't necessarily mean that they're healthier than a slow oxidizer, right? You would say that an extreme fast oxidizer is healthier than maybe a mild slow oxidation, a person in mild slow oxidation. But just speaking in general terms, if especially on the first test, if someone's in fast oxidation, they tend to be not quite as bad in burnout, even though they probably still are in burnout. They're just masking it by pushing themselves into fast oxidation. Okay. So the oxidation rate is very important. Okay, you can kind of think of it. I've made videos about it as well. You can search this channel on oxidation rate, where I talk about how your body oxidation rate is kind of like the RPMs of an engine. Okay, so engines kind of work. Most engines and most things that are similar to an engine, they work best at a certain RPMs, right? So like if you over rev an engine, for example, your foot's on the gas. That's generally that's hard on a vehicle, right? You don't want to be, you don't want the engine over revved, and then if it's not working properly, either it won't turn over at all or it'll be under revved, right? The engine will die, or it'll just be idling at too slow of a pace, right? And so your body's kind of like that too. It kind of has an in-between sort of state that where it's most efficient in its energy usage. Okay, you can kind of think of the person, the adult, where they have good energy all day. They can work at a steady pace all day, and they're grounded, and it's not frantic, and they can still they can work all day, but they can also sleep at night. Okay, they're more in control. Okay, and so the oxidation rate is very important for health, right? Because we want to determine, do we need to be revving the body up, or do we need to revving the body down? Okay, and so the way that we, I've talked about this in other videos. The way they do this is through various means. Some of it is diet. Fast oxidizers need more fat. Slow oxidizers, they need more protein and more carbs. Part of it is the supplementation. So if you're in slow oxidation, you're going to be getting certain B vitamins and other things that help increase the oxidation rate. And if you're a fast oxidizer, you're going to be getting certain B vitamins and other things that lower the oxidation rate, okay? And if we look at a sample test here, there's a couple ways to tell the oxidation rate. So it's important to realize that the hair graph is already calibrated. So for me, besides the fact that it tells you if someone's in fast oxidation or slow oxidation just on a test, the lab will tell you if it's just you're in slow oxidation. Just visually, okay? So visually, we can see that calcium, magnesium, are both higher than sodium, potassium. So I know they're in slow oxidation. Okay, if sodium and potassium were up here, I can just immediately visually see that they're in fast oxidation. Okay, so again, because calcium, magnesium are higher visually than sodium, potassium, I know they're in slow oxidation. If, for example, sodium, potassium were up here, I would know they're in fast oxidation. Okay, as opposed to slow, which this person is in now. Now, it's not always that easy to look visually. I'm just saying like 80 to 90%, I would say, of tests, I can just look visually right when I get the test, and I can immediately tell if they're in fast or slow oxidation. Okay, then we can also scroll down. We can see fast or slow or mixed. Mixed would be a situation where maybe one of these is higher than the other side. So let's say sodium was up here, but potassium was still down here. And so it's not as skewed from one side to the other. That would be mixed oxidation. I could see that visually as well. And we can also calculate the oxidation rate manually. Okay, so definition of fast oxidation is a calcium-potassium ratio less than 4 and a sodium-magnesium ratio greater than 4.17. Slow oxidation is the opposite. Calcium-potassium ratio greater than 4 and a sodium-magnesium ratio less than 4.7. So that's why we can see it visually, right? So calcium-potassium ratio, obviously we can see which is higher, right? Calcium or potassium. Okay? And you can also have mixed oxidation. So that'd be calcium-potassium ratio greater than 4 and a sodium-magnesium ratio greater than 4. And then if you have less and less, a calcium-potassium ratio less than 4, and a sodium-magnesium ratio less than 4.17, that'd be mixed oxidation. But the vast majority of the time, I don't even need to calculate it manually. I just look at it visually, and I can tell, okay? Combined with, of course, the fact that the lab tells you. So you can see why the oxidation rate is so important, okay? Because it's going to tell us what vitamins and minerals they need. Slow oxidizers, we give Megapan. If they're a fast oxidizer with a high NAK ratio, we're going to give them Stress Pack. And if it's a fast oxidation rate with a low NAK ratio, then we give SPF formula. Okay? And again, we can go to the Endomed website and we can see what's in those multivitamins. But it's different, mostly it's like different B vitamins, okay? So that combined with the diet, so you can see why the oxidation rate is very important, right? And we want to know also, just, is the person burnout? Is the person in more of a stress response? Are they over-revved or under-revved? Or are we trying to, what are we trying to do to the body here? Okay? The third most important is just, are they in 4 lows? So 4 lows is very important because it kind of gets its own program. And we can look for 4 lows. It's one of the first patterns that I look for, if not the first. And we can see this person is in 4 lows, right? So 4 lows is anytime all 4 macros are below this black line, basically, okay? So we know it's a 4 lows pattern. 4 lows is important because it gets a special program. That's why it's in the top 3, okay? So Dr. Eck found many years ago that people in 4 lows are basically in a separate metabolic pattern, okay? And you can't, even if they're in fast or slow oxidation, which all people in 4 lows are, you can't just give them a slow or fast oxidizer program because their bodies are kind of in their own, they're kind of stuck in that metabolic pattern, okay? So if someone so let's give an example, right? So this person, even though in slow oxidation, we would not give them a standard slow oxidizer program because they're in 4 lows. So typically we give something called Megapan, right? That includes B vitamins, that increases the oxidation rate. We would not give this person Megapan. What Dr. Eck found many decades ago is that people in 4 lows didn't respond well to the typical slow oxidizer program. Instead, what they need is basically megadosing magnesium and calcium, okay? This forced the body to rest You know, calcium, magnesium are very sympathetic, I should say parasympathetic minerals. And by parasympathetic, what that basically means is that it helps calm the body, right? They're grounding minerals, and they help people sleep. You know, they're calming, like we talked about. And then they, so they really help the person sleep more, and they force the person to rest. Okay, basically, calcium, magnesium are a way to not only re-nourish the body, but also in high enough dosage, they're basically forcing the person to rest out of 4 lows. Okay, so Dr. Wilson likes to compare someone to 4 lows, like they're stuck in a ditch, and then the wheels are turning. Okay, and it's like you're not getting traction. Okay, first we have to get the person back onto the road before we administer a standard slow or fast oxidizer program. Okay, I think it might be Dr. Eck actually that came up with that metaphor. But anyways, so the 4 lows is very important, right? Because it gets its own program. We don't typically give the fast or slow oxidizer multivitamin to a person in 4 lows. All they get is they get the standard things, like they get kelp and they get a digestive enzyme and things like that. But the 2 most important for someone in 4 lows is, again, Paramin, which is just a calcium magnesium supplement, and then whatever it is that they need for their sodium to potassium ratio. So that'd be zinc, as we talked about in the last video, or it'd be limcomin. Okay, so you can see that once you have these 3 data points, you can basically set up most of a program. You know if they're going to need a fast or slow oxidizer diet. Okay, you're going to know if they need a 4 lows program, and you're going to know if they need a 4 lows program with the zinc or limcomin, because they're in faster, they have a high or low sodium to potassium ratio. And then with the oxidation rate, you're going to know, especially if they're out of 4 lows, if they're going to need the along with the diet, if they're going to need the fast or slow oxidizer or multivitamin. Okay. Also, sometimes we give a glandular to slow oxidizers, but that's neither here nor there. And so that is the 3 most important data points. We talked about sodium potassium ratio, and then 2 and 3. I put them 2 and 3 because they're both, in my opinion, pretty close to each other in importance. So sodium to potassium ratio is definitely number 1, and then 2 and 3 have the oxidation rate, and then is the person in 4 lows. And again, once we have those 3 data points, that's basically all you need to set up a program, because we know how skewed the oxidation rate is, how skewed the NAK ratio is. So we know how much zinc to give, how much limcomin to give, what the diet is, how much calcium, magnesium to give. And other things like on the test are important, like phosphorus levels can tell you important things, heavy metal, toxicity, things like that. But as far as just the 3 data points that are like 90% of it to set up especially what supplements and diet the person's going to do, these 3 will tell you most of what you need to know. Okay? So again, my name is Luke. If you want to email me, my email is down below. We are starting to offer an app that you can also use to try to do your own nutritional balancing program, although I don't encourage it, just to do it by yourself. I do encourage you to work with a practitioner. Also, if you're a practitioner, you can use the app that we have created. And in another video, I will talk about maybe some of the rebranding that we're doing. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you later. All right.